5 years ago, my mother, she pretended to be broke and lied about a medical emergency so everybody would feel bad for her and basically donate a bunch of money to her. Well, everybody found out that she was lying. Well, now, 5 years later, she's actually in a real emergency, but nobody's given her a dime. I haven't really talked to her in the last 5 years, so imagine what I was thinking when she showed up at my doorstep with a luggage and a sad story, and she tells me this.
Hey, I'm Jason. I'm 30. I'm currently working for a well-known architecture firm, and I'm financially secure with a stable income. I've finally managed to get my life back on track. I have my own place to live and a bit of peace of mind. But unfortunately, living happily ever after, that's such a myth. Because one day, I hear this knock on the door, and guess what? I saw my mom standing at my door, and I regretted it the instant when I looked at her. I can't even tolerate her sight. It annoys me when, in her sweet voice, she smiles and greets me, without even waiting for me to reply or giving me the way to let her in. She made her way inside, and I just realized that with her entering the home, the chaos in my life is also entered. It was like an unexpected storm, bringing with it tumultuous chaos that disrupted the peace and quiet of my life. And as she looked around, trying to absorb her surroundings, in response to it, she made a face with sarcasm dripping from her polite voice when she said, "Nice place." In an instant, my entire childhood flashed back before me when I heard such a tone in her voice. When I was a kid, though, she spoke to me sweetly and politely, and I always felt inferior or full of self-doubt in front of her. It made me feel insufficient and lacking no matter how much I tried. And unfortunately, some things will just never change. She makes herself comfortable on my couch and instructs me to bring the luggage inside, lying on the door. I was baffled by the word luggage. She came with luggage. How long did she plan to stay, and why, I wondered. When I asked, she did not give me a proper answer at all. Not to any of the questions I asked. She just said she was missing me and came to visit. I know she's someone who does nothing without a purpose, and something is definitely fishy here, and I need to know before it gets too late or she uses me to her advantage. After I brought her luggage inside, she tried to talk to me, but I'm not good with a bit of small talk, you know, and I gave up all formalities long ago. So, I told her, get to the point. As she was sipping her tea and I saw her designer handbag and a few pages were sneaking out of it. When I asked her again the reason for her visit, she handed me down these papers to me and confessed that she was actually diagnosed with a blood clot in her brain, and that she needs surgery on an urgent basis, which is why she came to me. I am the only son, and wherever I stay, she'll stay too, because her home is because of me. All my anger surged, and my feelings were a bit bottled up. Sensing my emotional turmoil, she tried harder and gave me the look with her eyes, saying she missed me all these years. Such a liar she is. I don't fall for her words any longer because I know actions speak louder than words, and her actions display otherwise. The truth is that she's alone and wants someone to look after her and pay her medical bills, and missing me or anyone else does not suit her. Because when I was a kid, she hardly had enough time for me. I took care of myself, and she never bothered about my existence. Every day she kept changing her boyfriends, coming late from parties, and hardly interacts with me, let alone gives me enough time. She had no such attachment to anyone, especially not me, as far as I know. I grew up taking care of myself when she was enjoying her freedom, attending all events and social clubs, and even returning home late. Later, when I grew up, my mother started dropping hints, and as soon as I turned 18, she became impatient and kicked me out of her home. She was also becoming passive-aggressive later, trying to manipulate me by acting as if a victim, showing how my existence hinders her freedom, and I just feared being on my own. But seeing her so adamant about making me leave her place, I had to comply. Already working part-time, I started living at my uncle's place, who was my father's relatives. They were happy to keep me and kept their rent affordable enough for me to pay on time, until I did not get admission to a university for college studies. At his place, I finally realized what it feels like to be accepted for who I am, and to be appreciated through the gestures. Unlike my mother, who always made me feel guilty about my existence growing up, I realized nothing was wrong with me. Anything that is wrong is with my mother. My life was smooth, though not as comfortable as Mom used to have it, but it was peaceful and satisfying to be surrounded by my loved ones. And at the end of the day, that mattered the most. After that, I started living at the student hostel on a full scholarship. For now, she needs the money for her surgery, and I am her last hope. Her only hope. She further adds that she knows I'm a kind-hearted person, and I've always been an ideal son. And she always appreciated me most. I remember how I was stolen from my childhood in order to be the best at everything, and I was an ideal son. I hardly played outside, always finished my homework on time, and even kept myself presentable as well-mannered with etiquette, was a grade A student, played piano, won debates, and aced every single competition. And yet, I just seemed to always suffer from low self-esteem and a lack of confidence. And I get anxious because of the sarcasm in her voice and her constant criticism. During that time, I felt that my mother, she was right. I always thought that there might be something wrong with me because she always made me feel unwanted and unworthy of love. I'd always sought her approval. Yet I almost got carried away, but then it hit me. Only last hope? I couldn't get it. I inquired what she meant by last hope. What about her friends and other relatives? And she lost eye contact and said that she refused to help her. I could not understand the reasoning, but then she tried to pull one over once more. But I already sensed something suspicious about her, and that is she's hiding something. I recollected my thoughts, refusing to get carried away this time through her emotional drama, but also, after glancing through her reports, I could not ignore her fragile body, and she's actually sick. And I was torn apart to force myself to swallow my anger. I told her that I needed some time to think and space to figure it out, and she got angry and said, "What is there to think about?" Well, she started getting on my nerves. I carried her luggage and told her to get out of my house because, hey, I need some space. Adamant, as always, refused to leave. Standing right there at the door, she starts crying out loud and played the victim, trying to make a scene in front of everyone. Streetwalkers, neighbors started judging and questioning the two of us. As I was caught up in her drama, I saw the clock and realized that I was getting late for the office. So I got ready and headed out to escape the chaos and drama for the time being, and my mind will be clearer by the evening when I get back home. I went out, but she kept screaming. I had to leave in a rush because I was already late. I worked the entire day, and on my way home, I was thinking about how to deal with her. I thought of a way just to, outstay away from her and also to get her treated. And the best way is to send her to an old age home. There she'll get her timely treatment and also be away from me and my place. But when I reached home, I saw that my neighbor was upset and angry with me, and I asked him what was wrong, and he snapped at me, saying what a terrible person I am for leaving his sick, old mother alone outside with her luggage and making her look homeless. Before I could even say anything, my mom came up behind him and said she was okay. To parents, kids are always their little ones. After all, everyone makes mistakes, right? She has forgiven me already, and my neighbor, impressed with her kind words, sided with her and told me that I should take her back home. She knows her charm works, and she always uses it for her selfish motives, either portraying herself as a damsel in distress or someone is inferior to her. My mother, Though she had a gentle exterior, was poised and spoke politely, yet she had a tendency to sugarcoat lies and manipulate. She's charming and has an attractive personality, but she is an apathetic person who has no sort of feelings for anybody and uses her charisma for her own benefit to manipulate people. She is the definition of pure evil and can step on anyone to get anything she wants. Materialistic to the core. She lives a luxurious life and enjoys the limelight. I knew she must have fabricated lies and told random stories to portray me as a psychopath and her as a kind-hearted goddess of purity. I'm well aware of her actions and intentions, but the problem is that I'm always helpless and have become her victim. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So today's story does have multiple updates, and let me just tell you right now, things are going to be loaded with karma. Alright, let's just go ahead and jump into update number 1. Later that night, when Mom was snoring in her bed, she was sleeping soundly and I could not bat an eye for a second. Feeling stuck in the same dilemma when I've been through this same situation, I was being betrayed by the same person, who expects me to help them now. I hate when people say we have to be bigger to be a better person after being abused and hurt by that same person. My mom made choices at the moment, and now I am. And she has to accept whatever I choose, and that is her consequence that she cannot escape. She has to pay for it. I just hate the bigger is better argument where either person does something wrong with us, and it is justified, but we are meant to abide by the rules when it's our turn. My past is now haunting me. 5 years ago, I was 25 years old and diagnosed with a kidney infection. The doctors warned me that if I do not apply for the treatment on time, it can have an everlasting impact on my health. But to book my appointment soon, I have to deposit 70% of the amount to the hospital. When I checked my bank statements, I saw that I could manage only 60% of the total amount from my savings, which I did through my part-time job. But the remaining amount will take me time to earn considering my depleting health condition, which does not allow me to work for longer hours efficiently, so I cannot continue with my part-time job for longer. I thought that maybe my mother could help me out a little, even though I was not in much contact with her, but at least I was on good terms. But she at least wished me on my birthday, though. She never bothered to put on act of motherhood. I never complained and never asked more for her. I thought of reaching out to her, expecting some financial assistance during this time of an emergency, so I go visit my mom's place, and though she was not very happy to see me, she did not show any signs of disapproval of my arrival. She greeted me politely, for the sake of formality, and asked me how I was doing. I told her everything about my condition. She sounded concerned, but said she was sorry that I had to deal with everything. But all she could do was pray for me and nothing more. I was heartbroken. But trying to hide the despair in my voice and being optimistic, I tried to negotiate with her, saying that she could lend me the amount for some time and I would return it with interest. Then she suddenly acted poor and said that she does not have enough money to give an urgent basis because she has rent to pay this week and she's already lagging behind with the payment, or she could become homeless. Also, the alimony from my father was too little to satisfy her needs, and she has to make her upcoming appointments, which she has to pay in advance. Therefore, she cannot lend me any money right now. Shattered and betrayed, I came back wondering what I ever did to deserve a mother like her in his life. After all, her sarcastic and unwanted treatment always tormented me, but I never expected this from her. Yet, I cannot grieve over my mother because I do not have enough time. I have to make some arrangements and try somewhere else. Then I checked my bank statements to see if I could afford to get a student loan to pay my medical bills. But I did not have enough time to complete the paperwork and the documentation process. I went to my uncle, with whom I stayed for some time before getting into college, and I promised him that I would return the money. He did not doubt me since I always paid my rent on time, but this time's a little exception since I'm physically inefficient. It also took me some time to recover so that I could pay a lesser amount at once, but I tried to keep my pay just regular. The debt continued for over a year, but I did graduate with flying colors and applied for internships, which helped me get over the debt soon. I never met Mom since she denied me the money. Not even once did she bother to know how I was when I worked at menial jobs and ran errands even though I was not fully recovered after the surgery. I was trying to make ends meet to pay debts to those who trusted me in my time of need and helped when I was truly suffering. I blocked all her contacts because of the deep-seated grudges inside of me. And now I've moved on in my life, and I'm grateful for being surrounded every day by people who actually love me. But then, peace did not last, and when I found her again that day at my place, the place they own, my only home apart from my uncle's residence where I felt peace, here she comes. And her presence killed the vibe. Even her aura drained all the positivity from my place and filled it with negativity and anxiety, replacing the calmness I just hated her being around. I was embarrassed and left with no choice but to keep her at my place. She thought she won, again, but I'm not going to give up this time, getting confident that she can make me do whatever she wants. Well, I let her be happy for once as I promised myself that it would not last very long. Because as the quote says, one needs to take 2 steps back in order to take 4 steps forward. So now, I've decided what should be my next concern tomorrow morning. I've tried to investigate her financial conditions, starting to reach out to her contacts and visit her relatives, and found that she took the money from all of them by pretending to be broke. And now, when she truly needs it, and they just going to deny her. Also, she does not have enough to repay her debt, which is why nobody wants to help her. Also, due to her extravagant lifestyle, untrustworthy and manipulative behavior, and by the way, history of cheating on them, discovering her truth gave me the confidence to get the upper hand and take control of the situation. Till then, she stayed at my place as she liked, and she spends money on shopping, refuses to take medication, and never ever visits the doctors. Never stops drinking alcohol and eating junk food either. I tried to put some sense into her by telling her to please cooperate, and that I would get her treated, but it is only possible if she agrees to go to an old age home. But guys, she kept refusing and gave up her nice guy act, and started acting very rude. Not only that, she gets angry and starts to bring up my past to get me mad. She blamed me for being an ungrateful son, and she always takes care of me. But I questioned her, saying that she threw me out as soon as I turned 18 and denied helping me when I had a medical emergency. She defended herself by saying she wants me to be independent and strong. When my father left after knowing that she was pregnant, she was still a teenager. Back then, she traded her freedom, her youth, her happiness, and everything else just to carry me with her. She could have sent me to a foster care, but she didn't. She claimed that she brought me up and that I have turned into such a scoundrel that she regrets having me in her life at all. She said she could have gotten rid of me when I was not born yet, instead of confronting such a pitiful day. She also yells, saying how mannerless I've become since I left home and became independent, and still, I don't have a house that's reputed enough according to her standards. I said at least I have people who love and appreciate me, unlike her, who has been such a terrible mother that even her own son doesn't want to be around. Well, that's the truth. I first discovered her anger issues when she slapped me very hard, and she later added that my father betrayed her and manipulated her, and I've turned out just like my father. But then she could not do anything when my father left her and abandoned her. But this time she swore to make sure, just to make me pay for it. She'll tell everyone how terrible of a son I am for leaving his sick old mother to die. Well, I realized that after my father abandoned her, she had always harbored bitterness against me, Her freedom was taken away because I entered her life and tied her down with the so-called responsibility she believed in. But the truth is that I took care of myself every time. And how conveniently she left me when I was in need of money during my medical emergency and denied giving me any sort of help. Well, honestly, I was so scared. Scared of her. Because this woman knew no boundaries. If she sets her mind on something, she makes it happen. Even at the cost of her own life. She cares for nobody, guys. And that can land me in some trouble. So, the best I can afford to do is keep an eye on her to stay, ahead of her and defend myself from her next move. I have to be careful while dealing with her, Update number 2. So, the next day while I was working in my office, I thought, at least I have time off from her at this place. But she proved me wrong there too. She came to the cabin to talk to me, and I told her she could have waited until I got home. She said she did not have enough time because the office would close where she had to make her appointment. She told me that she needed my signature in order to stay at my place so that I could not send her to an old age home and give that to her lawyer's office. I didn't care whether she was lying or simply telling the truth. But I did not want to pay attention to her drama. I just gave her the silent treatment. She gets upset at this point when she did not get the attention she expected, so she tried to provoke me. So she threw all my things off the table and tripped herself on the floor. Listening to the noise, people started gathering around the cabin, and the boss entered the room. She faked her tears, and people started coming inside to help her get up and give her a glass of water. Looking at my office, it was turned upside down, and my boss even questioned me. Mom was waiting to take full advantage of the opportunity, and the exact thing happened that I was scared of. Before I could say anything, she cried and embarrassed me by fabricating lies about me, and how terrible of a son I am, how burdened and overworked she is due to the house chores. She always took care of me, and I'm being so irresponsible and acting selfish. I'm so busy with work that I rarely pay attention to her depleting health condition and delay her treatment. Considering how sick and lonely the old woman is, whose son never takes care of her, and then she started blaming her karma for having a son like me in her life. My boss, sympathetic with her, and upset with me, decided to console her and started judging me as a terrible person and son. Before leaving, he snapped at me, saying that he was disappointed with me, and had never expected something like this of me, and gave me 2 weeks to get her treated. My mother seemed happy when she successfully spoiled me in front of my colleagues, and gladly she thanked him and invited them for dinner at her place. The boss gladly accepted, knowing that their upcoming clients would appreciate a home-cooked meal. After it was all over, I knew what she was doing with me. No justification or explanation would save me. So I went to the office surveillance room and found the CCTV footage where she tried to victimize herself and frame me in an accusation. I returned from the office and went back to my house. The place that used to be my home now suffocates me. I went inside, and the only private space left was my study dorm, which had cushioned walls and stacked books filled with important documents. I kept this room locked and hidden from my mother's sight, and that place was quiet, and no noise traveled outside or inside, and I'm working late to keep myself distracted from what I've been dealing with. I did not want to fall asleep. My phone rang with a pop-up notification. I woke up and saw the time was 5 in the morning, and the notification was a social media post on Twitter. I saw my mom posting a selfie where she had her hair unkempt. Her dress seemed wrinkled, and the background, which I cannot mistake for my drawing room, stunned me. I rushed outside, and she wreaked havoc. Right there in my drawing room, where I saw all my broken pieces of work lying on the floor, my clothes torn, and the pillows and cushions ripped to shreds. My house felt like I was robbed. But then I checked the other rooms and they were all fine. My mother was half asleep with TV on and junk food sprawled out on the floor. The kitchen seemed like someone had not, done it purposely. I screamed and woke her up and yelled about what she had done to everything and why. She said to check my phone. I saw her social media post describing how I have anger issues and I'm not behaving nicely with her. She is so overburdened with house chores like cleaning and cooking that it's led to her depletion of health. And today I've been so furious that I've gone and broke everything in the house, and now she's upset with me, saying she's going into depression since she moved in with me and she's always been such a loving mother, and now her own child, who is grown and independent, does care about his mom, his own mother, and never treats her nicely. She went inside her room and shut her door to go to sleep. Then, in an instant, it hit me, and I searched for the hidden camera which I had planted, hoping it did not break along with the other stuff in the room, and hopefully it's recorded everything. And I saw it right there, intact and safely tucked in the indoor plant. I picked it up and went to my study to collect the recording files, which can save me from her fake lies. Update number 3. My uncle then tells me to arrange a dinner at my place, and then he'll help me make the arrangements for presenting the video footage and other evidence in front of everyone. And he'll talk to the cops to get me the constraining orders against her. When Mom prepared everything for the dinner party, cooked a meal, and made all the arrangements to get the favor and went over my, friends and bosses at work, I was looking forward to executing my plan of exposing her. The boss and clients started coming over, and I knew she would mentally prepare herself, as if she determined to leave no stone unturned to make my life a living nightmare. To me, the word revenge, it sounds a bit mean. I prefer calling it returning a favor, which I'm going to do right now. So guess what this is like waiting for her? I plan to invite some other guests as well to surprise her. I pretended to be busy when the doorbell rang, irritated. She got up and went to the door, and her jaws dropped to the floor when she saw friends and relatives of her family. Those acquaintances with whom she had borrowed money by lying to them and never bothered to return it. Instead, she asked them for a second-time financial help when she was diagnosed with a blood clot in her brain, and they denied her this time. And they were standing at the door and they greeted her, but she could not display her shock to anyone. To her surprise, some of our neighbors, who were her good friends before, also came up. And with that, cops, they showed up too. I let them in and handed them my hidden camera evidence displaying the interaction and entire conversation between us, including how she threatened to ruin my life and career and threw things along with the tantrum. Her act shocked everyone, even our neighbor, office members, etc., who used to believe her to be fragile, sick, innocent old woman. It was enough evidence for the cops to get me a restrictive order against her due to her antisocial behavior. Update number 4. Finally, when everyone left, including her, I could breathe in peace. I was so relaxed that I fell asleep in an instant, and when I woke up, I checked my phone, and everybody apologized and sent me condolences from Mom from the office, and from colleagues and neighbors as well. The boss apologized. He was sorry for all the judging he did, and I got my place back at work. In the midst of leading a peaceful life, I get a phone call from a friend who informed me that Mom skipped her appointment again. This one was important, made by my boss, especially for her to see the doctor. Failed to get her into medical surveillance at the right time, and if they had, my heartbeat stopped. I repeated after her if they had what? And then she finally spoke, saying maybe she would not have died. I was struck. The phone fell from my grip, and I fell to my feet, and the shock was too much for me to handle. I did not realize that tears were streaming out of my eyes and just felt terrible. Regret. I grieved after realizing that she was no more. I've lost her forever, and no matter how evil she was or how much she hated me and tried to ruin my life, but some emotions are beyond our control. and cannot overlook the fact that it has affected us nonetheless. But then, after getting calmed down, I realized that if she had let me help her and tried to cooperate with me when I tried to get her treated in an old age home, she would have been saved. Some people make their choices and the consequences are inevitable, and she chose to hate me, and that hatred led her to take over her life. So I decided not to go to her funeral, even though I would miss her, because I would always remember that I was directly, or indirectly, the cause of her misery. She chose to hate me rather than save her life, so I would let her die in peace at last by fulfilling her last wish.
So this story did end in tragedy, with OP's mother passing away, and it left OP with a lot of guilt. He could not help but think, hey, I'm probably a little bit responsible for this. Yeah, she lied a lot in her life, and she did some things which got her to where she was at, but at the same time, OP was her son. So it does go kinda deep, but I want to know from you guys what exactly you thought about this story. Drop your comments down below, let me know. Do you think it was OP's responsibility to help his mother at the end of the story? After knowing all the facts that we know from the story, let me know your opinion. If you guys are new to the channel, hello, my name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate and animate stories every single day. If you like this sort of thing and you want to see more daily videos, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the bell notifications after you subscribe. That way, YouTube will alert you whenever I put a new video out. Guys, have an amazing day and I'll see you tomorrow. And just remember, it's cool to be kind.